All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to now get into a reaction that you guys told me to get into, which is from Shohei Hondo. Now, if you guys don't know who Shohei Hondo is, he is that YouTuber that YouTube tried to essentially get his video removed. They removed his video because of hate speech, because apparently, according to YouTube, being Japanese and complaining about Japanese culture being misrepresented, or a video game that's based in your culture, showcasing your heritage and your country, and having issues with that, apparently that's racism, because black people are more important than Asians, at least according to YouTube. Well, anyway, YouTube ended up putting their video back up, of course, and actually YouTube ended up responding to my tweet that went viral over this whole situation, but that's neither here nor there. But apparently now Shohei has a brand new video going over an insider. He has his own insider over at Ubisoft that reached out after that whole situation and is discussing the issues with Assassin's Creed Shadows and also what Ubisoft is trying to do in order to quell all of the backlash. So let's get into this video, guys, from Shohei Hondo. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. And of course, I'm going to leave Shohei's video in the description box below. Consider giving him a subscribe if you enjoy what you see. Let's get into it.
Yes, as the title said, I did. I mean, technically, I'm still interviewing them. I guarantee this is real. I check their profile, the social medias, and also I check LinkedIn. So they reached out after the backlash of the video I posted on Twitter, X, and we started having some conversation. There's someone who had worked on other Ubisoft games during the time Assassin's Creed Shadow was developed. And also looks like they worked to another gaming company too.
So he's going to end up having AI read this and obviously use a fake name in order to protect the person's identity for full transparency. So just so you guys are aware, as it's written here.
So today, let Jeremy G read. Our conversation started with this topic.
I wanted to give you some insight into the destroyed shrine situation as a developer. In video games, objects are typically called props. This shrine with the mirror consists of one or multiple props set together. By default, all props are static or non-destructible, because making them destructible requires extra work. You have to create sound and visual effects for the moment it breaks, along with specific animations, etc. It's an extra costly process. Usually in games, destructible objects are limited to those more likely to be in the player's path, like a lamppost in GTA that you can destroy by hitting it. The first mistake was even considering these shrine items as something cool to break.
So that's the things. In other Assassin's Creed games, you really can't break religious object in the map. Like you can break the cross, right? But in case you don't know, the mirror is the most important things in the shrine. And usually the mirror is hidden to like a core of the shrine. But if you do some ritual or something, the mirror goes outside sometimes, but it's very rare.
Doing so encourages players to fight inside shrines. I also noticed that many enemies are placed inside Japanese gardens or on the exteriors of temples.
Well, I think they do this because, number one, they want you to be able to fight in these areas. They really don't. Listen, they don't have respect for whatever religious sanctity these shrines represent. They don't care, right? They just want the aesthetic of Japan in order to monetize it and sell it to Westerners. That's really all it is. So, and I understand Japanese people are upset over this, but you got to also understand from the point of view of a white liberal Western studio, they don't give a crap. They consider you to be white adjacent, and they don't care about respecting your culture, your heritage. They just want to utilize it because it's popular and a lot of people like it and they like what comes out of that culture. They want to utilize it. Even if it ends up disrespecting you, it doesn't matter. They'll monetize it, they'll sell it, and they'll claim to be totally sorry after all the backlash happens while they take their money and they run.
The second mistake was failing to correct this during the backlash phase when they claimed they would be more careful in respecting Japanese culture. Transforming a destructible prop into a non-destructible one is just a click or two on a developer's computer.
Well, that's what I was saying all the time, man. These people are lazy. You really think Ubisoft is going to care in order to make that bit of a detail relevant? Like they're not going to care. If it goes from making it destructible to non-destructible, they're not going to care unless somebody calls them out on it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, they're just trying to make this as accessible to normies as possible in the West. That's all they're trying to do. And if they can allow you to do that, destroy shrines, destroy stuff, that's fine. It just goes to show that they want the player to be engaging in combat inside of the shrines. Make it make sense.
This means they had not considered, even for a second, how religiously significant this item actually is. I don't think people like you should call them evil.
They probably don't even know, to be honest. They probably don't even know. Their consultants, the only knowledge their consultants have are on PDF relationships between Buddhas and young boys. That is what their consultants are experts in. They're not experts in anything else. So chances are Ubisoft doesn't even know the sanctity of these shrines. I got to be honest with you. They're that retarded.
Evil.
Did I?
They are just very ignorant, not well educated on the subject, and not thorough enough in their work.
Actually, I thought about it too. But seeing Half-Life Shrine, which is kind of parody of nuclear bomb Tollgate, I think many Japanese felt insulted. Seeing that lack of the research that they did in past works feels we are insulted, like we are not treated fairly. But they're gonna explain why that happened.
Well, you're never going to be treated fairly because, again, Asians are considered to be white adjacent, right? Asians are considered to be a non-white, group of people that will not allow the liberals to oppress them. And thus, by not allowing them to oppress them, you are now white adjacent and you're just as bad as the evil white man that they hate so much, even though they're all white. So make that make sense.
I'm sure the Ubisoft team is doing everything they can to avoid further backlash at this point, so this issue either didn't cross their minds or they changed it in the final game, but not in this preview version, which was likely made around December.
I really hope they disabled the breaking the shrine mirror because it's very important.
For example, fixing the extremely tall.
I highly doubt that they are going to fix the shrine breaking. I highly doubt it. If they do, I would be very shocked.
And unrealistic Sakura trees is probably too late now. I'm sure they were aware they were too big, but sometimes in games, developers decide it's less realistic, but it looks cool. In this case, it was a major mistake on their part because they are trying to build a realistic weather and landscape simulation. I'm pretty sure they made the Sakura trees oversized on purpose, so they would be visible from a long distance.
Yeah, that makes sense. That explains why Sakura tree is so extremely big.
However, their mistake was underestimating how important.
Well, see, for them, it's exactly what I said before. It's about adopting the Eastern culture, selling it to the West, and making people go, ooh, ah, right? Because the Sakura tree obviously is a tree that a lot of people notice to be something that's native to Japanese lands, right? And it's that kind of aesthetic that they're going for. And they don't really care if it's massive Sakura trees. They don't care. All they care about is from players to be able to go into the game and say, wow, this is totally Japan. This is so anime. You know what I mean? That's what they want. They want that reaction. So they put stuff like that out there to get that reaction.
Sakura is in Japanese culture, where everyone knows their details very well.
So having these interviews, I started to think there's a good people in Ubisoft. So it looks like the person I interviewed, they really understand what Japanese think. And I asked the question. The question I asked is, what made you decide to talk to me about this controversy?
Internally at Ubisoft, just before Christmas, we received a worldwide communication regarding the controversy surrounding the game. In an effort to reassure us, they stated that they had analyzed all the complaints online.
It is important that we don't get discouraged by this noise. We have taken the time to analyze this situation. They represent a small yet vocal minority, and it is important to differentiate between the haters and those who provide constructive feedback.
That is hilarious. If Ubisoft actually put out this statement to their employees, that is hilarious. Yeah, we are a small yet vocal minority. We're so small and so insignificant that you guys, number one, had to put out a company-wide email to talk about it. And number two, we have been the reason why so many games have been failing lately because we've been calling out their nonsense, right? The games that are truly woke out there, the ones that are really actually pushing an agenda, they're the ones that end up failing. Veilguard is a prime example of it. We have so many others that we can list. Concord, obviously, is another one. Suicide Squad, Killer Justice League is another one. We've had so many games fail because gamers are becoming smarter and they're also becoming more informed. And sure, there are some people out there that are just hardcore anti-whatever, and I get that. But ultimately, most gamers are just looking for a good game to play. They're looking for that information, and I think it's insane to call us a small yet vocal minority. That is hilarious, by the way.
I wonder where my first video went. Haters or constructive feedback?
Not working on this project myself, I still wonder what they consider constructive feedback and how they address it. So I was not reassured as they had hoped. We were instructed not to comment on these attacks and to ignore them. From the outside,
That's another leaks stated too, right? Because I've heard of it.
it seemed as though the only issue they acknowledged from the community was Yasuke being African and his origins in Japan. They did not communicate to us, their worldwide employees, any specific mistakes in game design, story, or the portrayal of Japanese culture. However, they did state in both internal and external communications that they were working to improve as many inaccuracies in the Japanese setting as possible. For example, the shapes of tatami mats.
Little sad not to see square tatami mat.
Yet, they were very vague and did not clearly explain why addressing these inaccuracies had suddenly become so important before release. Around the same time, reports surfaced online stating that the first delay of the game was partly to address historical accuracy. Meanwhile, a respected leaker claimed that some of Yasuke's story and how he's portrayed in the game is being altered.
Yeah, so it's because for the marketing in Japan, they literally said like historically accurate, and then they care about historical accuracy. And seeing a lot of inaccuracy as a Japanese feels insult or like looking down on or really ignored. Like it feels like it's like a just Japanese culture. Like just
See, that's the problem, right? When this game tries to claim to be historical accuracy and is showcasing anything other than historical accuracy, and so many things get called out as being inaccurate or just flat out false, yeah, people get upset. You would have been better off to say it's just historical fiction at this point, and that way it'll give you a little bit more leniency. But when you claim it's historically accurate, well, then anything goes at this point. People can call you out on a lot of different things.
it's like a samurai cherry blossom done. That's what we felt.
I don't have precise information about this, but it was clear they were concealing major mistakes in Yasuke's storyline, which led to re-recording some audio lines and editing certain cinematics.
It's definitely whether Yasuke was samurai or not. Because in the beginning, even in Wikipedia, Yasuke was a samurai, right? But now, after this controversy, there's a lot of Japanese real historians started saying there's almost impossible to call Yasuke samurai at a time. I'm not gonna talk about this. Just Google it if you doubt.
So again, my main concern was that the debate seemed to focus primarily on whether Yasuke was technically a samurai in title or simply a legendary warrior. This seemed like a very minor detail compared to the broader complaints circulating online.
So next question I did is, how do you personally see this controversy?
I personally feel really uncomfortable and ashamed to work for a company that allowed such a debacle to happen. I truly regret the lack of serious preparation in depicting the Japanese setting and the failure to recognize content that could lead to cultural incidents. The fact that they secretly hid and fixed the worst mistakes before release, without taking responsibility or admitting their errors, feels like the worst part to me. I'll conclude my answer with a prime example of why Ubisoft completely deserves the backlash. Assassin's Creed Shadows censored in Japan to remove beheadings and limb amputation. The late-stage censorship of certain aspects of the game, such as dismemberment, in the Japanese version further reinforces my belief that Ubisoft did not take the necessary steps to anticipate such issues. I have experience with CERO's gain rating process, and so does Ubisoft. We are supposed to work with them during a milestone called the age rating phase, which takes place around the time the game enters its beta stage. For Assassin's Creed Shadows, This should have happened at least 6 to 8 months ago. The fact that this level of violence passed CERO's checks at that stage suggests that Ubisoft either failed to provide enough examples and data for a proper analysis or made last-minute design changes. While many other games are allowed to depict dismemberment in Japan, I'm fairly confident that CERO's restrictions mainly apply to extreme violence against innocent or defenseless individuals, such as priests or civilian women. This is a well-known fact in the industry, and Ubisoft should have anticipated this issue months ago.
That's some.
Which is funny because that's exactly what we've been seeing in terms of gameplay, right? We saw Yasuke run around with a mace and knock the actual literal head off of a pregnant, unarmed woman inside of her own home. Just knocked it off like a baseball. Seriously, I'm not even kidding. I'm not being like hyperbolic or anything. That's actually what happened. And it was a defenseless woman who's pregnant, and he just knocked the freaking head off of her like it was nothing. And Shohei reacted to it, and his jaw dropped when he saw that. So I think it's pretty safe to say, ultimately, guys, first off, go support Shohei. I think his video is fantastic. There's a lot more information here if you want to check it out. I'm going to do a live reaction on Hypnocast for this, and it would have already happened by the time you've seen this video. So please make sure to check out that stream or check out Shohei Hondo's video, whichever you decide to do. But ultimately, man, this entire information is nothing shocking. I think it's pretty obvious what's happening over at Ubisoft right now. It's nothing but damage control. It's nothing but trying to save face, and it's nothing but them trying to convince everybody that they totally did the research on everything in Assassin's Creed Shadows, when all you see is nothing but inaccuracies, inconsistencies, and just flat out lies being told within the game. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it if you could like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.